Commander Thraz clicked his mandibles together in satisfaction, the sound echoing through the corroded hallways of Station Gamma 7. This was it. This was the moment every Crovenian warrior dreamed about since humans had strutted into galactic politics like they owned the place. Target acquired. North Corridor, Section 12. His tactical officer Sergeant Kelm hissed through the comlink. One human, alone, armed with primitive kinetic weapons. Thraz felt his 3 hearts pump faster. One human. Just one. They had brought 15 of the Crovenian Empire's finest soldiers for this operation, and here was their prize, cornered like a sick animal on a dying space station. The irony was delicious. The humans called this place a trading post once. Now it was a graveyard, and they had found their prey wandering through it like a tourist. Surround him, Thraz ordered, his voice carrying the weight of 23 successful campaigns. Keep your plasma rifles charged. I want him alive, but I want him scared first. The team moved with practiced precision, their exoskeletons barely making a sound against the metal grating. They formed a semicircle around the human, cutting off every escape route. Thraz stepped forward, allowing himself to tower over the pathetic creature before him. The human, this Marcus Webb according to their intelligence files, stood in the middle of the corridor with his hands resting casually on his belt. He wore a battered jacket, scarred combat boots, and carried 2 pistols that looked like they had been manufactured in a scrapyard. His face was covered in stubble, his hair was a mess, and his eyes were calm. Too calm. Marcus Webb, Thraz announced, his translator converting his clicks and growls into the human's primitive language. Mercenary. Smuggler. Wanted on 6 systems for crimes against the Crovenian Empire. You are surrounded. You are outgunned. You are finished. Kelm laughed. A wet, rattling sound. Look at him, Commander. He thinks he still has a chance. The other soldiers joined in, their weapons trained on the human's chest. 15 plasma rifles, each capable of burning through reinforced hull plating, all pointed at one man with 2 antique guns. Marcus Webb looked at each of them slowly, his expression never changing. Then something happened that made Thraz's mandibles stop mid-click. The human smiled. Not a nervous smile, not a fearful smile. A genuine, almost entertained smile, like someone had just told him the punchline to a very funny joke. Gentlemen, Marcus said, his voice carrying a lightness that made no sense whatsoever. I think there has been a terrible misunderstanding here. Thraz did not appreciate the human's tone. He did not appreciate that smile, and he certainly did not appreciate being called a gentleman when he was a decorated commander of the Crovenian Imperial Forces. There is no misunderstanding, Thraz snarled. You have been stealing from our supply convoys. You have been aiding the resistance. You have made yourself an enemy of the Empire, and now you will pay for your arrogance. He raised his clawed hand ready to give the order to fire when Marcus did something completely unexpected. He laughed. Actually laughed, like Thraz had just said something ridiculous. Fire, Thraz commanded, his patience evaporating. Plasma bolts lit up the corridor in brilliant shades of green and blue. The air itself seemed to ignite as 15 rifles discharged simultaneously. Enough firepower to reduce a combat vehicle to molten slag. Marcus moved. Thraz had studied human physiology. He knew their reaction times. He knew their physical limitations. He knew they were slow, fragile creatures who relied on tools and tactics rather than natural superiority. He knew all of this, and he watched as Marcus Webb made a liar out of every intelligence report the Empire had ever compiled. The human dropped, rolled, and came up firing in one fluid motion that seemed to defy physics. 2 shots rang out, sharp and primitive compared to the hum of plasma weapons, but devastatingly effective. Kelm's helmet exploded in a spray of shattered composite material and he dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Another soldier, Private Wren, grabbed at his throat where a bullet had found the gap in his armor plating. 2 down in 2 seconds. Spread formation. Thraz roared, diving behind a support beam. Flank him, you idiots. He is just one human. But Marcus was not where he had been a moment ago. He had moved again, somehow anticipating their repositioning, and now he was using the corridor's natural cover like he had designed the station himself. Another shot rang out. Corporal Vex screamed and fell, clutching his leg. Is this the Empire's best? Marcus called out, and Thraz could hear the grin in his voice. Because I have to tell you, I have fought off loan sharks more dangerous than you guys. Thraz felt rage building in his chest cavity. This was not how this was supposed to happen. They had the numbers. They had the superior technology. They had prepared for this moment. Private Locks charged forward, roaring a battle cry, his plasma rifle set to maximum dispersal. Marcus did not even look concerned. He simply stepped aside, let Locks stumble past him, and shot him twice in the back. The Crovanian's armor held against the first shot, but the second found a joint seal. 4 soldiers down. Thraz aimed carefully and fired. His shot was perfect, trained by years of combat experience. It should have taken Marcus in the center of mass. The human twisted, and the plasma bolt singed his jacket but missed flesh. Marcus actually looked down at the smoking hole in his clothing and shook his head. "Really?" he said, directing his comment at Thraz. "This was my favorite jacket. Do you know how hard it is to find decent outerwear in this sector?" He was still smiling, still making jokes, still fighting like this was some kind of recreational activity instead of a life-or-death struggle. Sergeant Brill tried to circle around from the left. Marcus shot him in the knee without even looking in his direction. The sergeant collapsed with a howl. 5 down. "Concentrate fire on his position," Thraz screamed into his comm. "All remaining units full barrage now." The corridor erupted in a storm of plasma as 10 rifles fired at once. Metal melted. Support beams glowed red. The very air became toxic with superheated particles. When the barrage stopped and the smoke cleared, Marcus Webb was gone. And from somewhere deeper in the station, Thraz heard the human whistling a tune. Lieutenant Voss crawled up beside Thraz, his breathing labored through his helmet's filtration system. Voss was older than most of the squad, scarred from campaigns that predated Thraz's own command, and his tactical instincts had saved their lives more times than Thraz could count. "Commander," Voss wheezed, his mandibles tight with concern. "We need to pull back. Now." Thraz stared at him like he had just suggested surrendering to a group of unarmed colonists. "Pull back? We have him cornered. He is running. We are winning." "Are we?" Voss gestured toward the corridor where 5 of their soldiers lay dead or dying. "Look at the pattern, Commander. Really look at it." Thraz wanted to argue, but something in Voss's tone made him pause. He pulled up the tactical display on his wrist computer, overlaying their positions and the humans' movements over the last 3 minutes. The path made no sense. Marcus had not moved toward any of the station's docking bays. He had not tried to reach the emergency escape pods. He had not even attempted to access the communication arrays to call for help. Instead, he had been moving in a very specific direction, deeper into the station's maintenance levels, drawing them forward step by step. "He is leading us," Thraz said slowly, the realization hitting him like cold water. "Yes," Voss confirmed, "and we have been following like hatchlings chasing their first prey. Notice how he has not actually tried to kill most of our soldiers? Legs, arms, non-lethal zones. He is disabling them, not eliminating them. Why would he do that unless he wanted us alive?" Thraz felt his confidence crack. He replayed the fight in his mind, watching Marcus's movements with fresh eyes. The human had multiple clear shots at vital areas. He could have killed half the squad in the opening seconds if that had been his goal. Instead, he had been precise, calculated, almost surgical in his targeting. "He is not running from us," Thraz whispered. "He is hurting us." Private Nex's voice crackled over the comm from the rear guard position. "Commander, I am detecting unusual energy signatures throughout this section. They look like... I cannot identify them. They are not standard station system." Marcus's voice echoed from somewhere ahead, carried by the station's acoustics. "You know what I love about these old stations? They have such excellent bone structure. Perfect for renovation." Thraz's blood went cold. Renovations. The human had been here before, had prepared, had planned. "He knew we were coming," Voss said. What they were both thinking. "This entire section is compromised. We are standing in a kill zone." Thraz looked around the corridor with new awareness. The scorch marks on the walls were not random. They marked specific structural points. The debris scattered across the floor was positioned to funnel movement into certain paths. Even the lighting seemed strategically damaged to create shadows in specific locations. "All units, halt your advance," Thraz commanded. "Do not move forward, do not pursue." But it was already too late. From deeper in the station, Marcus called out again, his voice carrying that same infuriating amusement. "By the way, Commander, when you were kind enough to broadcast your attack plan on an open channel earlier..." "Yeah, I was listening. Thanks for that. Really saved me a lot of guesswork." Thraz felt his 3 hearts sink. They had not cornered the human. The human had cornered them. Marcus Webb stepped out from behind a damaged bulkhead about 30 meters ahead, both pistols holstered now, his hands relaxed at his sides. That smile had not left his face. If anything, it had gotten wider. "So," he said, conversationally as if they were meeting for drinks rather than standing in the aftermath of a firefight. "I am guessing Lieutenant Voss over there figured it out. He has that look. That oh no, we have made a terrible mistake look. I have seen it before." Thraz raised his plasma rifle, but his hands were shaking. "What have you done?" "Me?" Marcus put a hand to his chest in mock offense. "Commander, I have done exactly what you wanted me to do. I ran. I led you on a chase. I gave you the thrill of the hunt. You should be thanking me, really. I am practically a public servant." Voss was frantically scanning the walls with his tactical sensor. The readings made his mandibles click in distress. "Commander, there are devices embedded throughout this entire section. Proximity mines, plasma charges, shaped, explosive packs. We are surrounded by them. Dozens of them. 47 actually," Marcus corrected helpfully. "Well, 48 if you count the big one under your rear guard position, but that one is more for dramatic effect than tactical necessity. I might have gotten carried away with that one." Private Nex, who had been standing in the rear guard position, made a sound that could only be described as a whimper and very carefully stopped moving entirely. Thraz felt his tactical training collapsing around him like the walls of this cursed station. "You have been planning this. You knew we would come." "Knew? Commander, I have been counting on it." Marcus leaned against the bulkhead like they had all the time in the world. "See, here is the thing about you, Crovenians. You are predictable. You have protocols. You have procedures. You have this adorable little tactical manual that you all follow like it is sacred text. Chapter 7, Section 3. Right. Standard engagement protocol for hostile targets in confined spaces. Overwhelming force, pincer formation, cut-off retreat paths." He was quoting their own military doctrine. Word for word. "I spent the last 2 weeks studying your patterns," Marcus continued. "Every move you guys made against human targets in the past 6 months. Every ambush, every raid, every tactical decision. And you know what I learned? You are really, really consistent. Made my job so much easier." Thraz wanted to fire. Wanted to rush forward. Wanted to do anything except stand there listening to this human dissect their failures. But Voss's hand on his arm stopped him. "The mines," Voss warned quietly. "They are pressure sensitive and motion triggered. If we move incorrectly, we all die." Marcus nodded approvingly. "Smart guy, your lieutenant." "Yeah, these beauties are set to a very specific threshold. Too much movement, too much vibration, and well, let us just say this section of the station becomes significantly more ventilated. I calibrated them using your approach patterns. Basically, you have been mapping the kill zones for me with every step you took." "This is insane," Thraz hissed. "You are one human. Even if you kill us all, the Empire will send more. Hundreds more." Absolutely," Marcus agreed cheerfully. "They will definitely send more. But here is the fun part, Commander. You see that window behind you? The one looking out into space." Thraz glanced back. Through the cracked viewport he could see the black void of space and the distant stars. "If you look really carefully," Marcus said, "just off to the left you will see my ship, the Mockingbird. Nice little vessel. Fast. Maneuverable. And currently pointing about 24 military-grade missiles directly at this station's main reactor." Thraz's vision swam. "You would destroy the entire station? With yourself on it? Who said anything about me being here when it blows?" Marcus's smile turned absolutely predatory. "I have an escape pod prepped 3 sections over. But you guys, well, you are standing in what I like to call the express route to the afterlife. So here is how this works. You have exactly 2 choices, Commander. Choice 1, you surrender, drop your weapons and accept that you have lost. Choice 2, you try something stupid and we all find out what explosive decompression feels like." Thraz looked at his remaining soldiers. Looked at the walls that were apparently rigged to explode. Looked at the human who had played them like instruments. They had never had the upper hand. Not from the very beginning. This had been an execution disguised as a hunt. Marcus pulled out a small device from his jacket pocket, no bigger than a communicator, and held it up for them to see. A single red button glowed on its surface. "One chance, gentlemen," he said, and his voice had lost some of that playful edge. "I am not a murderer. I am a professional. Drop your weapons, walk out of here slowly and carefully, and you get to go home. You get to tell your families about the day you got outsmarted by a human. Embarrassing? Sure. Fatal? No. Therese stared at that button. Stared at the human holding it. Stared at the absolute certainty in Marcus Webb's eyes. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to accept, to live, to retreat. But 23 campaigns whispered in his mind. 23 victories, medals, commendations, the respect of his peers, his reputation. A Crovanian commander did not surrender to a single human. You are bluffing, Thraz said, though his voice lacked conviction. You would not destroy yourself just to kill us. Marcus tilted his head. Commander, I really wish you had not said that. All units, Thraz commanded, raising his rifle. On my mark, concentrated fire on the human. He cannot detonate if he is dead. 3, 2, pride, Marcus said sadly, shaking his head. It really is the most expensive thing in the universe. He pressed the button. The universe became noise and fire. The first set of charges detonated along the eastern wall, exactly where Privates Hux and Tall had been positioned. The explosion was not random. It was surgical. Shaped charges that directed force inward, turning metal into shrapnel, sending both soldiers flying backward in a spray of armor fragments and biological matter. Thraz barely had time to process their deaths before the second wave triggered. Proximity mines along the north corridor, right where Corporal Zen and Private Meyer had been attempting to flank, erupted in sequence like a deadly symphony. The blast wave hit them before the shrapnel did, and they did not even have time to scream. Fall back, Voss shouted, but there was nowhere to fall back to. The rear guard position, where Private Nex had been frozen in place, suddenly erupted in a column of white-hot plasma. The big one Marcus had mentioned. Nex vanished in an instant. His existence reduced to atoms and regret. Marcus had moved during the chaos, somehow already 20 meters to the side, watching the destruction with that same calm expression. He had known exactly where each blast would occur, had positioned himself in the only safe zone. Stop moving, he called out over the explosions. Every step you take triggers another sensor. Stand still, and you might survive the next 10 seconds. But panic had taken hold. Sergeant Krell tried to run, made it 3 steps before a mine beneath the floor grating detected his weight, and detonated upward. His body hit the ceiling with a wet crunch. Thraz stood paralyzed, watching his elite team being systematically dismantled by traps they could not see, could not predict, could not avoid. This was not combat. This was extermination. Lieutenant Voss had not moved. He stood perfectly still, his weapon lowered, his eyes locked on Marcus. How? He asked simply. Motion sensors, pressure plates, infrared triggers, and good old-fashioned tripwires. Marcus explained, like he was teaching a class. Layered defense systems. I had time to prepare. You did not do your reconnaissance. That was your first mistake. 3 soldiers remained. Thraz, Voss, and Private Lorne, who was quietly weeping behind his helmet. Your second mistake, Marcus continued, still holding that detonator, was assuming I was the prey. The charges had stopped. The station settled into an eerie quiet broken only by the groaning of damaged metal and Lorne's sobs. Marcus was still smiling. So, he said pleasantly, anyone else want to try their luck? Or are we ready to have a civilized conversation about surrender? Thraz's rifle slipped from his trembling claws and clattered to the floor. Voss dropped his weapon next. Lorne did not need to be told twice. The 3 remaining Crovanians stood in the wreckage of their squad, surrounded by the bodies of soldiers who had been alive and confident just minutes before. Marcus walked forward slowly, carefully stepping over debris and around blast zones with practiced ease. He stopped about 5 meters from Thraz, close enough to talk, far enough to react if needed. Sit down, Commander, Marcus said, and it was not a request. Thraz sat. His legs gave out anyway. He looked up at the human, at that smile that had not faded even once during the entire engagement, and finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind. Why are you smiling? What is wrong with you? Your species, you smile when you should be terrified, when you should be serious. What? Marcus's expression shifted slightly, and for the first time Thraz saw something other than amusement in those eyes. Something colder. Something far more dangerous. You want to know about human smiles, Commander? Let me educate you. Marcus crouched down, getting closer to Thraz's eye level. We smile when we are happy. Sure, but we also smile when we are nervous. When we are uncomfortable. When we are angry and trying not to show it. And sometimes, Commander, we smile when we are planning something absolutely terrible and do not want you to see it coming. Thraz felt his blood chill. 3 weeks ago, Marcus continued, his voice dropping lower. Your intelligence division raided a transport ship in the Kelvin belt. You were looking for resistance weapons. You did not find any, but you did take prisoners. 12 humans. Civilians. Families. Thraz's memories flickered. Yes. There had been a raid. Standard procedure. Detain anyone connected to resistance activities for questioning. One of those prisoners, Marcus said, and now his smile looked like a predator baring its teeth, was named Rebecca Webb. My sister. Another was her daughter, Emma. She is 7 years old, Commander. 7. And your people took them because you thought it might draw out resistance members. The realization hit Thraz like a physical blow. This was not about the supply convoys. This was not about the resistance. No, Marcus confirmed. This was about you taking my family. This was personal. And here is what your intelligence files did not tell you about humans, Commander. We are dangerous when we are following orders. We are more dangerous when we are hired and doing a job. But we are absolutely lethal when you threaten the people we love. He stood up, looking down at Thraz with eyes that held no mercy, no compromise, no hesitation. I let you live, Commander. Not because I am kind. Not because I am merciful. But because I want you to go back to your empire and tell them exactly what happened here. Tell them that one human with 2 pistols and a plan destroyed an elite Crovenian strike team. Tell them that we do not negotiate when you take our families. We do not surrender. We prepare, we plan, and we smile while we dismantle you piece by piece. Marcus stepped back, pressing something on his wrist device. In the distance, Thraz heard the sound of an escape pod warming up. Your medical team will be here in about 20 minutes, Marcus said. That is how long it took me to hack your distress beacon and set it to auto-broadcast. Your wounded will survive, your dead will not. And you, Commander, you get to live with this memory. You get to remember that you had 15 soldiers, superior technology and every tactical advantage, and you still lost to one human with a grudge. He turned and started walking toward the corridor that led to his escape route. Wait, Thraz called out, his voice broken. Your sister, your niece. Where are they? Marcus paused, looked back over his shoulder, and for just a moment his smile became genuine, real. The kind of smile someone wears when they know something you do not. Already safe. Extracted them 2 days ago from your holding facility on Kronos Station. This, he gestured at the carnage around them. This was just me making a point. This was me teaching you what happens when you underestimate humans. When you think we are weak because we smile. He started walking again, his footsteps echoing in the damaged corridor. Spread the word, Commander, Marcus called back. Tell your empire. Tell your soldiers. Tell everyone who will listen. Humans smile for a lot of reasons. And if you see one smiling during a fight, his voice faded as he disappeared around a corner. Run. Thraz sat in the ruins of his squad, surrounded by the consequences of his pride, and understood with perfect clarity that the galaxy had severely miscalculated humanity. They were not the prey. They had never been the prey. And by the time the Crovenian Empire realized this truth, it might already be too late.